If you're betting on black or red, for example, there's actually only a 47.4% chance it's going to land on black or red, but they're only paying you out at even money in that situation, which means this would actually need to be a 50-50 chance for that to happen. And that's because of the 0 and the double 0. And now they're even bringing in tables with a triple 0 on the board, which lowers the likelihood even further down to a 46.2% chance. So the more times you play, the more money you're going to lose. So if you just bet on red 1,000 times, you're going to lose money doing that. And this is why casinos never lose. But the good news is that's not the case with betting on sports and on horse racing. And that's why I was so passionate about it. And the reason why I went into it in the first place, because I knew I actually had information to make these decisions from. I wasn't guessing like you have to do when it comes to roulette. Even if you look up on the board and you see that, red's come up 10 times in a row, so you think, oh, it has to be red again. Or you're contrarian, you're like, well, it's been red 10 times, it has to be black this time. None of that means anything because every single spin, it could be anything. And that's not the case with betting because we actually have all this information to make those decisions. So how do we find EV bets? There are 3 key factors when you're researching, whether it's sports or racing. That's statistical performance, form trends, and situational factors. So when it comes to sports, first of all, we'll run through some examples of this. I used to spend hours and hours researching until I figured out how to streamline the process. And I did that through the Bet Finder. So this started with me, writing out the bets, writing out the research and the statistics on a piece of paper, and obviously evolved over time. Now, first example of this is I just wanted to bring up some examples from just last weekend. So they're recent and so that, you can kind of see how this works. And you can see that this is what I'm doing right now as it stands today, not, way back in the past. So firstly, this Storm Canberra Raiders game. This matchup, I took the Storm -5.5 in the first half. Now, the reason I took that bet, there were a number of factors. Firstly, when we're looking at the bet finders here for this matchup, you'll notice the Storm are the number 3 ranked first half team in points for, and Canberra are ranked last in the league, ranked 17th, only averaging 8.2 points. And then defensively, Storm are ranked 4th, only conceding 9.2 points, and Canberra ranked 16th, conceding 13.6 points. So we have a top 3, top 4 first half side going against a bottom last to second last other side who are on the road. Then some of the other factors that I added on top of that is with Canberra being away, it was also back-to-back road games. They played the West Tigers the week prior as an away game, now traveling to Melbourne. Then they also played on the Sunday, whereas the Storm played the Thursday night game the week prior. So they had an extended rest coming into this. So this was a really, really bad situation for Canberra. For them to come into this game. And then also Canberra's last 2 games, their most recent matchup against the West Tigers, they only managed 2 points in the first half. And then the week prior at home to the North Queensland Cowboys, they were down 22-0 at halftime. So they'd only scored 2 points in the first half over their past 2 weeks. And now the Storm covered this line. They led 6-0 at halftime in this game and left it really close, which thankfully they did. However, if you watch that first half, they pretty much spent 80% of the time in the Raiders' 20-meter red zone, right on the try line, and were just struggling to break through that line, which is largely due to the fact, which you can see in the key play ins and outs on a separate sheet, that the Storm are missing a number of their key players that help with try assists. They're pretty much just relying on Jerome Hughes at the moment. So that was obviously the only negative factor there for the Storm. Another example over in the AFL was I took Port Adelaide as the underdog to beat St Kilda. Now, you might swing your mind back a couple of weeks to the Port Adelaide-Brisbane Lions game where Brisbane won by 79 points at the Adelaide Oval. There's heaps of controversy, everyone blaming the coach, fans weren't happy, and all of that in the media pushed the fact to everyone, oh, well, Port Adelaide are going terrible. But the reality was they weren't actually going that bad. And they had a really, really winnable matchup against St Kilda the following week, who really weren't playing all that well at all. In St Kilda's last 9 games, they had only won 2 of them, which were against North Melbourne and West Coast, the two teams right at the bottom of the ladder. So they were hardly in good form. Port Adelaide had also lost their last three, but when you look at who they played, the Brisbane Lions, GWS, and Carlton, all top 8 sides during that period. And there was a lot of pressure on the players to show up and perform. So in this situation, going against St. Kilda, who are out of form, and Port Adelaide, I can't remember off the top of my head, but Port Adelaide had won the past 6, maybe the past 7 against St. Kilda as well. All major factors for me backing Port Adelaide in that situation. And then Richmond versus Carlton. In this matchup, I took Carlton over 105.5 team total. Main factors for that. So Carlton's previous 4 games, they'd scored 96 plus in all 4 of those games. And the teams they'd faced over that past month were all much better defensive sides than Richmond, who are ranked 17th in the league, conceding 102 points. Carlton, the number 2 attacking side, and also ranked 5th in shots at goal. And also this opponent rebound the inside 50s. They're the number 1 in the league. So that means they're converting their inside 50s into scoring shots. Obviously, there are a few other statistics that really stood out to me in this game. But also another major thing that contributed is that Carlton's defense is conceding 84 points a game and also giving up a high number of shots on goal. So I knew Richmond were probably going to find some points, which should, if the other team is scoring, that's going to force Carlton to keep playing attacking and not kind of just try and ice the game. The only negative for this game, there was rain predicted, but looking at the radar, that rain wasn't predicted to hit for the most part of the game. And obviously Carlton went over that line. And this is why I'm using all these factors that you can see here to make those decisions. So we're looking at the betting trends. We're looking at player props, power rankings, how teams perform home and away, try scorer trends in the NRL. And when you have all this information at your disposal, you can actually make really, really smart betting decisions. And it doesn't mean you're going to win every single bet, but you're giving yourself the most likelihood of being profitable just by having really good tools at your disposal and having the skills to use those tools to do the research. Now, to give you some quick examples in horse racing of how we find those winning bets is my main goal when I'm betting on a horse race is to eliminate horses who I think can't win that race. So I'm going through a ton of different factors to do this, which you can see here. So previous form factors, so from their previous races, and then factors for this upcoming race and how it's going to impact them. Now, don't want to dive too deep into these right now because obviously there's a lot of information in there. But basically, I'm looking to identify the key races from all the races being run where I'm able to single out races with normally 1 to 2 major winning chances, and then I'll look to separate those. So for example, I think the best way of doing this is just giving you examples of how I've actually done it. So firstly, at Caulfield on Saturday, just gone, we backed Barraquil. This horse was 3 from 3 so far in his career coming into this race and had been a dominant winner in all those starts. You see the winning margin on those lines was coming off a 3.5 length win where it pretty much never really got out of first gear after settling outside the lead. This race was a step up in grade, but we're getting over $4 to back it in this race. And when we look at the speed map here, Barraquil was a go forward horse, so we knew it was going to be, and there wasn't that much speed drawn underneath as well. So we knew Ben Allen was going to be up there on speed and be one that they need to get past. And then the other chances in the race, Jury and Legio 10, who ran 2nd and 3rd in this race, both had very tricky maps from those wide draws, so making it tough for them. And the other horse in the market, the Open, was a horse coming out of midweek grade. So we knew Barraquil and the Open were both stepping up into this grade, but of the style of Barraquil's wins, felt like it had a lot more up its sleeve and was able to get the win at 440. Then at Rose Hill, we backed Golden Path. Another one that paid in the mid 3s when they ended up starting this race was a nice winner the previous run, went 4th up that prep, running down Father's Day. The main thing I liked about it was 1,600 to 2,000 and then got the win. And I always like horses in this distance range once they've had the run over that similar distance. It was dropping 3 kilos from that win. And also on the map here, You can see there's not a great deal of pace inside, and that gave Schofield the option to slide forward and land a spot in the first four without doing much work early. And the horse that was favorite for the race, Waterford, was going to be back in the field and have to make up a lot of ground in order to run down Golden Path. And Waterford doesn't really have that good of a record for the most part either. So it was an easy bet there on Golden Path. Over in Adelaide, we've got Great Maximus. It's drawn the fence this time around, and I thought it was actually the only bet I had that day at Morphettville. It was coming up off a freshen up run at Murray Bridge over the 1200 meters. This run, it just got a long way back. You see, settled 10th of 12 in the run and was basically in an unwinnable position from there. Now drawn in barrier number one. And that run being its first run in 7 weeks, I felt like it definitely had an upside off of that. And drawn in barrier number one, was going to get every possible chance there, drawn the inside. And with that bit more fitness edge, settling closer from that low draw, I thought it was going to be very hard to beat. Then over in WA, Dance Boss. This horse has been running really consistently. You see most runs in and around the placings with a couple of wins in there. We're starting to get a little bit deep into its preparation. However, last start only just missed behind Celebrity Prince, who it also met in this race, but met it a lot better at the weights. And also Celebrity Prince lost William Pike coming into this race with Chris Parnham taking over the ride. So that was in his favor. And then the other horse in the market, Investment Strategy, was first up off a spell, so not really an ideal situation for it coming into this race. So definitely wanted to be with Dance Boss getting a perfect run there, drawn in barrier number four. Also in a race where we were going to get an average or better tempo as there are a number of horses looking to go forward. Then also in the following race there, we're back to My Hidden Universe, was coming off back-to-back dominant wins, 5.5 lengths, 2.5 lengths. 1200, now up to the 1300 meters, drawn well, kind of middle, and we just knew that Brandon Louis was going to go forward, take up the running here, and they had to be the one to be able to run it down, which there wasn't really anything in this field that were much of a strong chaser. So if it held form, they weren't going to catch it. And then at Eagle Farm, in the Group 1, backing Bella Nipotina, took around $2.50 for this horse. It started $2. And realistically, when I analyze this race, like Bella Nipotina is clearly the best horse. The only thing that was going to beat it was the barrier, drawn out wide. But generally, the way Eagle Farm have been playing is you're able to sit wide on the track and still not be disadvantaged. And down near the fence hasn't really been the place to be. And at the end of the day, if Bella Nipotina had drawn in barrier 6, 7 for this race, was probably starting well into the odds-on range.